You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is a program called
The Wonderful World of Wardini Books.
And as always, it's my pleasure to have in the studio today the wonderful Lou from Wardini Books in Havelock North. How you been going? Good?
Kick the pie, yeah, very well, Ken, thank you.
That's what I like to hear. And business is good as always?
Yeah, ticking along rather nicely. Lots of people in town for Easter weekend, so...
Yeah. They say gardening is the greatest hobby of all. I wonder where reading would come in that. Would it be a close second, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably when you've done your bit of gardening, you sit and make a cup of tea, read your book.
Put your feet up.
Life is good.
Yeah.
Living the dream.
I don't suppose you've noticed, but super wine, they've got thinner and they don't taste the same.
What's that?
A super wine biscuit.
Oh, I don't eat those. I
don't eat those? What's your favourite biscuit?
I don't eat a lot of biscuits. I quite like custard creams.
Oh, yeah, nice.
I like the old bourbons. You don't get them very much here. Yeah.
Ginger nuts, they're nice.
I don't like ginger nuts.
Too hard?
They remind me of being pregnant because everyone tells you you're supposed to eat ginger nuts for the morning sickness. It just makes you feel sick thinking about it.
Anyway, we've got 3 fabulous books to review today, and they have a common thread. And the first book is called This Is Where I Stand.
And look at the cover of that. So it's clearly a picture book for children.
Mm-hmm.
The author is Philippa Werry, and the illustrator is Kieran Reinhardt.
Yeah.
And he's got such a particular style, and they are... they're wafty and beautiful, and so this one is clearly from the cover. It's an Anzac book.
Yes.
You know, we've got Anzac Day coming up in April, and I'm quite ambivalent towards some Anzac books because I don't like the glorification of war. I'm a bit of a hippie with that kind of thing, but this one I think just strikes exactly the right balance. So what we've got is the statue. This is where I stand all day, all night, every night. And what you have there is this soldier, and he's kind of an unknown soldier. He represents everybody. But he sees the passing of the seasons, and he sees the creatures that come out at night, and he watches the children running around in the park. I watch the children grow. I watch the hours tick past. So there's just this constant there of this soldier standing there watching everything happen. And there's a subtext, I think, for adults of him watching the way that the world has developed and the fact that he's been there since the end of the First World War, and we're still in a pile of trouble now, aren't we, in 2021?
Tells the story, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. That's the subtext for me as a grown-up. But for a child, it's a really good explanation of why we have monuments and why we commemorate things like this. So the children race over to see me. Their curious fingers trace the names beneath my feet. So that it's like that, oh, okay, Mum, what's this all about? And then he also relates how once a year people come, and they come at dawn and they are quiet and reflective. And he's talking about the poppies, and he remembers the farewell dances, the hope, the bustling streets of Cairo, the beaches and steep cliffs of Gallipoli. And then he's also talking about the red flash of the poppies in the fields, the roar of gunfire, the colour of mud, the silence of the graves. So he's talking about the experience of war, but Philippa Werry has put it in a context that children will understand, and they'll go, oh, that's not a good thing, is it, Mum? You know, and Mum can then explain further. And look at that illustration.
Oh,
so within this one soldier, there are all soldiers of all race, creeds, colours, whatever side you were on. You know, it's not just we were right, they were wrong. It's everybody's sons and fathers died. And there is also a page which I really quite liked when there were years of protest, when people carried banners and waved placards. You know, there's no judgment there.
No.
That happened too, because I am the focal point then for that, for saying that this is wrong and why are we still doing this after 100 and odd years. So, yeah, there he stands.
Yes, indeed. Wow, what a great book. And those pictures would make fabulous paintings to hang on your wall, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Marvellous.
So Kieran also illustrated Alexandra Tiley's If I Was a Banana. And they did in Pippi, because that's Pippi's, Alex is Pippi's restaurant owner.
Oh, yes.
And they had them all the prints framed in the restaurant, and people bought them. And he's just the most wonderful artist, isn't he? It's so evocative of what he's trying to explain there.
While you were talking about that book, it reminded me of a story that I watched the other night on telly from The Twilight Zone. Did you ever watch The Twilight Zone? That's the one. It was called The Ninth Floor, and it was about shop mannequins.
Oh, creepy.
Yeah, and they watched everyone go by, and then once a month, one of them could come to life and go and experience the real world.
Oh.
And then they had to come back
Were they dangerous or were they just...
No,
okay.
It was good, yeah. Anyway, we digress completely
Something
on that
weird
one.
about mannequins, though, isn't there?
I know.
You know, the representation of a human that's not a human.
They look so human now, don't you think?
Crikey. Creepy.
Tell us about Liminal Space.
So this is by Jackie McRae, and she's a New Zealand author, but it's set in Radley, which is, I think it's a fictional village, but it's outside London somewhere. And in this one, the story pivots around a man called William, and he's lived in Radley for years, but because he wasn't born there, he's still an outsider.
Yes.
And he's a bit weird. He's got long scraggly hair, and he skinny dips in the river and keeps himself to himself. And people sometimes visit his shed, you know, so there are all sorts of rumours about William. But we get the story from William's perspective, and we know there's nothing dodgy about him. He's just an unusual chap. And he's got some deep hurt there that he's trying to atone for. And that's why he's alone. Just him and his gorgeous dog, Juno, who's an absolute beautiful character in her own right. And then you've got other people in the village who come into his orbit. So you've got Emily, who she's had a terrible childhood. All she ever wanted was to be married and to be safe and to be in a loving relationship. And she gets married, and this chap doesn't turn out to be what she thought he was at all. And then you've got James, who's a young man whose father wants him to be a lawyer like him, and he's going to go to Oxbridge, and he's going to do this, and off he goes, and it just breaks him because that's not who he is. So he comes back to the village, and then he falls within William's orbit as well. And then you've got Marco, who is, if I can use a very rude word, he is a bit of an a-hole, Ken. So he's the son, he's actually William's best friend's son, and so William's been like a second father to him, and his mother ran off when he was little, and he's gone off into the city and is the big real estate I am, you know, and he is a complete occurred. So he has to come back to the village as well, and again he falls within this sort of, I do see William like the son and all the other characters as sort of orbiting him.
Around him.
Yeah, so William's also synesthesic, so he can see your aura and he can feel your pain. So if you had a headache, he would get a flash of that pain as well. So there's a tiny amount of magical realism in it, but it's not really at all. You know, it's just an experience, a human experience. So it's how all these people then are affected by what goes on with William. And they are all in a liminal space, so they're all waiting in the in-between zone for something to happen, for good or for bad. And William's really on a journey of his own as well. But the writing is so elegant, it's so graceful, that you feel that you know these people and you want to text them, you know, like, are you all right, William?
Wow.
What's going on for you? You know, and I kept wanting to go back to it all the time. And it's really easy and gentle and lovely. I mean, there's tragedy in there, like there is with most books, because that's life.
Of course.
So it is another little nugget of life, and I think she's done an excellent job, and I like it very much. It's Huia Publishers, that one.
I was going to say, is it a good read? But you answered the question. Obviously, a very good read.
I loved it.
Yeah. Tell us about the last book we're going to look at today, which is called The Quiet People.
The Quiet People. It's Paul Cleave. Now, people who are familiar with Paul Cleave's novels, he's a New Zealand crime writer. They are full on, man. So you don't pick up a Paul Cleave knowingly without expecting a gruesome ride, and it is a ride. So in this one, it's set in Christchurch, and the main character really is Cameron Murdoch, and his wife Lisa is a lesser but very pivotal character. And they are authors, they're crime authors. So it's almost like The Matrix, you know, sort of like layers of reality. So they write about how you kidnap and murder people, and, you know, they write good crime novels, and they're very successful. They've got a little boy called Zack, and he's 7, and he's a bit of a handful. They have what they call crazy Zack moments, where he has absolute meltdowns, like massive meltdowns. And this happens when Cameron has taken Zack to like a fun fair, and he's on the bouncy castle, and then he loses sight of Zack, and he's running around talking to kids, and, you know, where's my boy? And he finds him, but he's managed to annoy another father who's like, get off my kid, because he's asking this kid where Zack's gone. And someone's filming it, and rowdy. And then that night he goes home, and Zack says, I'm going to run away. And he says to him, well, if you're going to run away, you need to do this, and, you know, you need to make sure you've got food, and, you know, just like you do with kids sometimes, like calling their bluff a bit. And of course the next morning they wake up and he is gone.
He has run away.
Has he run away, or has he been taken? So the you-know-what hits the fan in quite a spectacular way, and because of the altercations with other people at the fair, the media goes nuts. They accuse Cameron and Lisa of murdering their own child, and the police, they're arrested, and it all goes completely to custard. And you're getting it from Cameron's perspective, so you know kind of what's gone on, and the injustice and the police incompetence just drive you completely bonkers. And it gets progressively, it's just like one of these Kafkaesque nightmares where it just gets worse and worse and worse, and nobody believes you, and you can't claw your way back out of that, insect that you've become.
Hole gets deeper and deeper.
It gets deeper and deeper, but it is a full-on ride. It's very visual, so you are just watching graves being dug and blood spurting and people being, offed all over the place. And you also watch the unravelling of a mind. There's quite a discussion there of, I'm a decent bloke up to this point, and then I'm not going to be a decent bloke anymore. And you find out what people are actually capable of.
Sort of Charles
the
Bronson
mask slips,
yes.
That kind of thing.
And spoiler, good ending, or have to read it?
Halfway through, it takes a turn. So you've almost got two novels in one, which I found quite fascinating. You've got, child abduction, this, that, and the other, and then you just go, whoa!
What's happening here?
Yeah. So, it was very enjoyable, very enjoyable. But you've got to have a strong stomach for Paul Cleave.
Now, you mentioned the thread, but what is the common thread that holds all of those books together?
They're all New Zealand authors, and that wasn't in my mind. I didn't do that deliberately. I've just been reading some good stuff.
Yeah.
And they all happen to be written by New Zealanders this week.
Fabulous stuff. And if we want to get any one of these fabulous books, where do we get them?
We're Wardini Books. We're at 16 Tomato Road in Havelock North and 44 Hastings Street in Napier.
As always, Lou, my pleasure. You look after yourself. We'll talk to you same time, same place next week.
Cool. Thanks, Ken.